Ah, he's a killer. Start the show. Save her life. Go, go, go.
Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you have the information you need to be able to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want. Me? I'm just Tom Merritt.
Dude, I'm just a failure. I didn't start the show fast enough. I saw blood go on the cassette player, and then I just knew that I'd failed. I was too late, Tom. I'm sorry.
Brian Brushwood, what did you think you could stop the inevitable careful massacre of the bourgeoisie?
Yeah, man, that opening video. If you watch this week's Mr. Robot, they have a giggle and watch this retro 1980s disaster piece, and then they released it as an actual 8-minute, completely nonsensical short film. Did you watch this?
Yeah, no, I totally did, because as soon as I saw them do it on the show, I was like, all right, they must have shot more than they needed to be able to show as much as they did.
Yep. And
it would be very Mr. Robot to release that to us to be able to see. And of course they did, meeting our expectations.
Yeah, so if you just type in Mr. Robot Bourgeoisie, I'm sure you'll find it. But it's freaking amazing. But not as amazing as our two new guests.
No, joining us today, we have John Anealio and Patrick Hester, co-hosts of the Functional Nerds podcast, as well as many other things. John Anealio, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having us. Thanks, Brian.
And
thanks for having us.
Patrick Hester, welcome to you as well.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on a show that has a budget.
It's a very small budget. It's a very tiny budget.
Budget's a budget.
Yeah. We try to stay within that budget. No, but you guys, okay, so John, you're a cord cutter, correct?
I am, yes.
And Patrick, what is your cord cutting status?
I'm a cord cutter at heart. But I've got a senior citizen essentially living in my house. My mom's 75. She has Alzheimer's. She can't do internet stuff. She has to have the remote control with the TV.
Gotcha.
So I still have that for her. But for me, most of what I watch is either Netflix or Amazon Prime, or I do a lot of DVDs just because I have DVDs.
Man, that's fascinating because we deal with the technological hurdles that people have to go through. But like when you're dealing with a loved one who's in a state where it's just like, man, I can't even explain to go to a website to do a thing. It's like hold this, press this. Wow, what a fascinating reason to not cut the cord. Congratulations, sir! In 200 plus episodes, we finally heard a new one. That's good.
Yeah,
she's 75 years old, so
you're cord adjacent.
I am, yes.
You have to have a cord in the house, but it sounds like you really don't take advantage. You don't get the benefit of that cord. You use your own stuff.
I do, yeah. I have Dish Network, number one. I live in Denver, and they're really big here, and so it does allow her to be able to watch whatever she wants, whenever she wants. And she just watches network shows.
Well, there you go. But that's actually, she is within the spirit of the show, which is we don't care if what you want to watch when you want to watch means getting Dish Network. That's fine.
And that's what she uses. But yeah, I'm all about, I'd prefer to watch something on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I don't like Hulu though.
Why don't you like Hulu?
It's got to be
even
the
if you
ads.
pay for it, they still make you watch commercials.
Yep.
Well, then you just pay a little extra, and then you don't have to watch the commercials.
Why? Why can't it just be pay and not worry about it? Why does it have to be a tiered pay system?
Because they're giving you a discount if you're willing to watch a few commercials, which is exactly cable television.
And I'm not.
I'm curious to.
Oh wait,
Hulu,
except for the discount part.
Yeah, well, because I use the commercial-free version of Hulu and I love it. But now that all of the CW shows are not going to be there come fall, I am interested to see what Hulu's numbers are going to be come fall when people like me who watched almost all CW shows on Hulu, where it was like Arrow, Flash.
Man, I don't know that you could more perfectly segue into our primary target.
So Ted Sarandos, the chief content guy over at Netflix, was talking to the Television Critics Association about the fact that subscriber growth, not ratings, drives their revenue. Also, the fact that our subscriber growth wasn't very good in the last earnings call is not a big deal. They're not worried. That was just churn. They don't expect it to get worse. They asked him about peak TV. He said there are too many mediocre, safe shows on television. We vote to keep the bar high and keep them coming. And he didn't exempt Netflix. He says sometimes we miss. Sometimes we're part of the problem. We try not to be, but sometimes we miss. On renewal decisions, he said that for Netflix, audience to cost ratio, whether people completed seasons, the audience satisfaction, and a few things like social buzz and critical response all play a part. And he said that, yeah, we're not going to release ratings because that doesn't play into our decision process.
Oh, man, lots to unpack here. First of all, I mean, it makes sense that, yes, get away from ratings. I know you all want to know the numbers. We don't have to tell you the numbers. And in fact, it's nothing but liability because all we're doing is playing into gossip culture. And especially in a world where, you've got blogs making all their money by talking about what other people are doing.
And they're going to keep spending, Brian. On track for $6 billion on content this year. And he said, yeah, we're going to spend more in 2017. We're not slowing down.
Yeah, smart. I mean, look, they're doing everything right. Obviously, they're making plenty of money. Let me jump down to a couple of emails that we got because we got a few people writing in that. This was unplanned. Here we go. Woogie says, just a quick note from Netflix numbers from last week. Netflix blamed its lack of growth on the churn due to the price hike. But isn't this the first quarter since Netflix started to crack down on VPN, smart DNS services? I wonder how many users can now no longer access Netflix, therefore cancel their membership. I'm sure that if this is the case, Netflix is surely aware, but would rather blame it on the price hike, as this prevents them from reporting the actual number of users who are bypassing the region restrictions, which I got to admit, this conspiracy theory just feels like a bullseye to me.
All right. Well, yeah, let's go there. Graham, who's Goucham in the chat room, made a similar argument in his email as well. So, as I said, Ted Sarandos said, man, yeah, subscriber growth, not ratings drives our revenue. We're not worried about that Q2 subscriber growth. They had a little churn. If you want to put your tinfoil hat on, the reason he's not worried about that churn is he knows that it was a one-time drop based on proxies and VPN customers who Netflix has been fighting, who dropped off, and they know it will bounce back because that was a one-time thing. They've blocked them, they've annoyed them, those people have canceled, and that's it.
So, I mean, do you believe it?
Yeah, John and Patrick, I'm curious what you guys think about this. Is Netflix in trouble with that subscriber growth? Or could this be an explanation where it's like, yeah, of course we're going to see a blip when they're out there fighting against their own customers who are trying to watch out-of-region programming?
I think it's probably a blip. I think Netflix, and you guys talk a lot about subscription fatigue, how there's like all these services, and Netflix and Amazon and Hulu are the big ones, and I think people kind of put their dollars in, and you sort of figure out what the value of each service is and what you're using it for. And I think Netflix still, in terms of like how much you spend on it versus how much in the quality of the shows. I know they've lost a lot of movies compared to what they used to have, but in terms of the quality of the material, I think it's still pretty high. So I don't think that's going to continue on a downward trend. And it is an interesting point, the VPN, that that could be why Sarandos is like, yeah, it's just this one time. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. But I think their subscriber growth will continue. I think it's a blip.
Patrick, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's a blip as well. And when you look at Netflix, I can't remember the last time I went to Netflix looking for a movie to watch.
Yeah,
it's almost
I'm the same
always
way.
bingeable
I don't really
TV.
watch many movies on it. It's almost all television shows and documentaries and things. It's very rare I go there for a movie. But then I could be, yeah.
Let's go to another email that we got from Joe in Madison, who's thinking of canceling Netflix for his own reasons. He says, I found myself spending a lot of time searching Netflix for new content to watch and switching over to YouTube or Hulu or Amazon for fresh content. Part of me wants to keep Netflix just to be loyal, but the other part of me recognizes I have the power to start and stop a service as I feel free. You guys have mentioned subscription fatigue a lot lately. For what it's worth, I have none of that. I'm thrilled with all the options, and I invite more. It's going to be on them to keep my attention with fresh or at least engageable, rewatchable content. Until Netflix's new series come out, they may be in a dry spell for me. Now, that's really interesting because when he says until their new series come out, they've got new series out all the time.
Yeah,
sure.
Sarandos talked about they're going to get Norman Lear to reboot one day at a time. They're going to have 40 new family programs by the end of the year. They've got Chelsea Handler renewed. They've got a new season of Arrested Development. So I'm not quite sure what he means about new series unless he means like totally new products, not new seasons.
Or just new content that he thinks is relevant to him, which is an interesting metric that I don't think we've ever discussed before, is what is an acceptable number of hours of new programming available week over week from a different service. Obviously with, Hulu, they've got a lot if that's how we're going to judge our cord cutting alternatives. Hulu, of course, has all of the television, brand new, just like last week, on cable. Whereas Netflix, I don't know what that number is. And more importantly, I don't know if anybody's tracking that number because I've not heard that metric anywhere. Have you?
No, I mean, it was a number that was meaningless when it was like, hey, you know what the new shows are? Lilyhammer, House of Cards,
yeah, right,
and Orange is the New Black. It's only within the past year that we've started to see them hit that moment where there is always a new show on. Well, and so you lose track of how many there are. I am now in the position where I start to hear of things like The Ranch that I hadn't heard about before. Apparently, The Ranch is getting 2 seasons in 1 year. So they're also starting to change how they release these things.
Yeah.
It was such a horrible show.
Wait,
Did you watch it?
I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of it. That is a horrible, horrible show.
Well,
that was Danny Masterson and Ashton Kutcher getting drunk and saying, "Hey, let's do a show together."
That's one of the weird parts about this speech too, is the fact that he says, yeah, you know what sucks is middling TV shows that aren't very good. Also, we're guilty of that. Hi, I'm Ted Sarandos.
Oh, really? See, no, I took that as him trying to avoid the obvious criticism when anyone says, you know what, TV has a problem with bad TV shows, and then everyone in the audience going like, well, not all your shows are perfect. I thought it was actually a really good thing for him to go, look, and so we're not saying we're perfect. Sometimes we miss too, but we don't think we're part of the problem because we think we're trying to set that bar really high.
I mean, I get the preemptive defensive maneuver, but I don't think it ended up making him give a stronger statement as a result.
What about you guys, Patrick, John?
I was gonna say, just to Patrick's point, is like I watched The Ranch and I liked The Ranch. I enjoyed it very much.
The accents were so bad.
We're watching a friendship dissolve right in front of us right now.
Yeah, but John is not. He doesn't have any Southern roots, so the accents don't bother him as much as they
I could
would
see
be.
that. Yeah, I could see that. No, but
if it was set in New Jersey, you'd be pissed.
That's true, yeah, because if they were in New Jersey, they'd all have spray tans, and it would all be like a lot of bad stereotypes about people from New Jersey.
From the chat room, Knots points out that you can't hire Adam Sandler for multiple movies and claim you aren't part of the problem.
That is a good point. That is a good point. But no, but what with The Ranch, what I liked about it was that it was a very traditional type of multi-camera sitcom, but a little bit different. And I think that's the thing that I like about Netflix's and any of the streaming content's programming is that they can try lots of different things, and some of it does go under the radar. Now, Tom said The Ranch was under the radar for him, but there's lots of stuff that you see there. You're like, oh yeah, I remember. Like some stuff they push pretty heavy. It seems like I don't know when a lot of the stuff drops, but I always feel like they push this stuff very heavy on a Friday. Like, hey man, what are you doing this weekend? Why don't you binge our new show this weekend? So I feel like they do that quite a bit. Some of it they push, but some of it is just kind of there, and you may see it or not. But I guess all that is also dependent on your viewing history too, what they may push to you rather than a different viewer.
Yeah.
Now, before we move off this topic, I want to set the context on what Terrence said. Ted Sarandos actually said. He said, we vote to keep the bar high and keep them coming. There are too many mediocre safe shows on television. And then in a Q&A afterward, someone said, who is it that makes that mediocre TV? To which he responded, we've got a few too, not intentionally. Does that change your opinion, Brian, now that I've presented it more accurately?
I mean, not really. It's still like if they know they're not in a bold winning position to make a proclamation like that, then how about you not make that proclamation to begin with, right? Because basically they said it, Everyone thought it. Somebody said it back, and they're like, "Yeah, no, maybe I shouldn't have said that just now." I just don't know that they're in the strongest position to do that. Especially,
I think it shows their strength. Personally, I think it shows they're like, you know what? We have a lot of great stuff. We're not too insecure to admit, like, you know, fine. I'm not going to throw my poop against the other networks. I'll admit, like, yeah, we've got a few too. Okay, I'm not going to exempt us. I admired it.
Okay. I admire that he admitted it, but with
You
that
think it'll
being
come
the
back
case,
to bite him?
No. I don't think it's any kind of looming threat. I just think like if you are in a weak position, don't go to war about how your content's super rad and you're awesome all the time if you know you're not also awesome all the time.
Oh, I think he thinks they're in a strong position, though. You don't think so?
I mean, apparently not, since somebody immediately called him on it and he immediately folded like a house of cards, so to speak.
On the ranch.
But what does he think are mediocre shows? That's what I would like to know.
Well, yeah, he didn't want to say that either.
Right. He's not saying it's. He's just kind of piggybacking on what other people have said. Like I didn't like the ranch. I also didn't like Fuller House because it was too much like a 90s sitcom. It freaked me out a little bit.
And that's going to be the problem when you start making this many shows. And it's a problem that I think will be worse for Netflix than others, because the freedom that allows them to make a show in any genre, in any style, to serve a niche means that they'll have more people who try those shows and hate them because it's not their style or their niche.
Yeah. Hey, man, you know what is our style? What is our niche? The nearly 2,000 people who support us over at patreon.com/Cordkillers. 1,813 of you guys have crossed the aisle. You've said, hey, man, I love the fact that you figured out a way to save us a few bucks off of our average for 2015 $99 cable bill. And we want you to have some of that cash, and we appreciate every single cent. You guys made it possible for both Tom and I to head on out to CreateCon, which, by the way, do you think, Tom, it would be worth us considering putting into the Cordkillers feed our talk that we gave there about the business of podcasting?
I don't know if I would put it into the feed. People don't take it well when you put something that's not the show they expect in a feed. But I think making it available to the patrons or putting the link out there so they can go find that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, if you're a patron, we're going to make sure that you get the business of podcasting, where we break down all the numbers that go into keeping this project alive. And we cannot thank you guys enough.
Yeah,
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Now we move on to the Signals Intelligence segment of our show, wherein we will talk about streaming services.
Intelligently.
That stream their things intelligently to you. Sometimes those things are, as we mentioned earlier in the show, cable television. Comcast is one of the many earnings reports coming out. And we have checked in on the progress of subscribers in cable television many times over the history of this show. And we watch as they dip down and the cable companies make excuses. And then the last time we talked, they sort of dipped back up for a few people, and the cable companies were declaring, see, cord cutting was a myth. Where are they now? Well, Comcast had a 5% drop in quarterly earnings, but they beat expectations in the growth of their internet and business services. TV revenue rose 6%. Where they lost their money was Universal's film studio. Revenue slid 40% to $1.35 billion on the backs of The Huntsman, Winter's War, and Warcraft. However, the one you're interested in is the subscription number for television. They lost fewer TV subs than expected. 4,000 subs versus 69,000 that they lost last year. So that seems to be plateauing. Where do they compare with other services? Verizon's television service lost 41,000 in its last quarter. Now, they were dealing with a labor strike at the time, so that may have inflated their number. Dish lost 281,000. Ouch. That is satellite and Sling numbers combined, although the Sling TV numbers are a very small part of that. They were doing a lot of banning of TV networks and carriage fights. That definitely seemed to hurt them. DirecTV, under AT&T's tutelage, is up 342,000 subscribers, and we won't know the combined Charter Time Warner numbers until August 9th.
Okay, so is this the brakes being hit on the cord-cutting revolution, or is this just an odd quarter, an odd moment in the continuing decline of traditional cable television?
Well, and that's the interesting question, because Comcast has a couple of cord cutting options out there that they've been using to stave off decline. Maybe that's working. AT&T and DirecTV definitely playing to the cord cutters, and they're coming out with their own internet-only service later this year. But that didn't help Dish. Sling TV not getting enough pickup to help Dish. And it's hard to look at Verizon's number and go, well, that's an aberration. It could have been bad without the strike, but it's hard to know whether it would have. I would call this the sort of, we've hit a plateau. Whether that plateau is going to dip over a cliff or it's just going to like say, well, this is the bottom of the canyon, I don't know. John, if you had to guess, what would you say?
I think I feel like they're inverting in a weird way, because I think more and more people will continue to cut, but I think cable will become more streaming-like, and streaming will become more cable-like. I don't know how long that will take, but I think it gets back to what we spoke about earlier with the subscriber fatigue. All these different places are trying to have their own streaming service, and a lot of those are going to tank because people aren't going to spend that much on all that, because then they're just going to be like, well, I might as well just get cable then. So I think you'll continue to see them dip, but I think cable will, and I think Brian has talked about this quite a bit before. I've mentioned about how they're kind of the dumb pipes, but they're trying to figure out a way to like have their business so that it won't be called cable anymore, but it's still going to be, they're still going to control everything anyway.
The fig leaf idea that I was talking about, where you just want some way to authenticate with all the individual content providers, and you'll never intend to ever turn on your living room television using cable.
Yeah, I think they're just going to keep sort of getting closer together to where it'll be the same thing, because anytime I present the concept of cord cutting to people, they're like, wait a minute, so you can get all that? Because when I cut my cord about almost 2 years ago now, I guess, we saved $80 a month. It's amazing how much we saved.
Can I propose a nutty new theory I have? I think there are two phases to the cord cutting revolution. There's phase one, which is moving away from things we don't like. We don't like the restrictive nature of digital television, the contracts that lock us in, the money that you spend subsidizing programming that you don't watch. I think we're seeing the end of that phase. And now the next phase should be moving toward something that's super rad. And we keep talking about like what's it going to look like when you have an artificially intelligent, a box that knows what the programming you like and automatically tees it up for you. We don't have that yet. We've been moving away from, and all the people who are angry enough, or most of the people who are angry enough, have stopped running away from, but we don't have anything to run towards just yet.
Patrick, what do you think of that?
Oh, I don't know. Part of the problem, I think, is Comcast can be really cheap, and they don't necessarily do a credit check. So in areas where you have low-income families, they are very popular because you can get the equipment, you can get it installed. A lot of the streaming services require high-speed internet. Not everybody can afford that right now. So there's lots of weird things going on. You talked about how Dish lost a bunch of numbers. Sling TV kind of sucks from Dish. It's not a great service as far as I'm concerned. Whenever I've tried to use it,
Agreed. Am I agreeing loud enough for you to hear me, Sling? You're brokenness.
Yes, it doesn't work well. And half the time it locks up the TV as you're trying to stream because it's using the box on the TV to stream to you over the internet. It's a pain.
Well, and that is true of PlayStation Vue as well. Sling, I've been using both of them. I actually stopped using PlayStation Vue because, in my opinion, it was buggier. But I have gone back and started to try it. And now I feel like they're close to on par. PlayStation may be a little ahead in reliability, but it's also true of every website ever. And
Sure.
What happens is, and I'm not judging when I say this, but you get in a different mindset when you're watching Sling TV or PlayStation Vue than if you're downloading a torrent or watching a YouTube video, right?
Because you have an expectation of quality and consistency.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And one bug on Sling TV is 10 times as worse as a glitch on a YouTube video, because you're like, it's just YouTube. What do I care? Whereas You're paying for Sling TV, and you remember like, hey, my cable TV would go out for hours at a time, but most of the time in between, it would just stream without interruption.
Right.
And my other question was the Dish numbers. You know, they lost Tribune.
Well, they brought him back, but yeah, Tribune was one of the companies they were having huge carriage agreements with, or disagreements, I should say.
Tribune Entertainment in Denver is not on Dish.
It's so in Denver they're still having the dispute
because it's our Fox affiliate, it's our CW affiliate, and WGN are all off on Dish here. Believe me, I have heard the complaints.
And that is not unique to Denver. They've had these kind of carriage disputes in multiple markets, which is, again, one of the problems. That's one of the reasons you're losing 281,000 customers.
Exactly.
I look at this and I see the fact that only one of these services added. Comcast may have beat expectations, but they still lost 4,000. DirecTV added, and DirecTV is the one that sort of silently pitches themselves as a cord-cutting option. They're like, yeah, you can install that dish up on your house, and we do it for free, so you might as well. But look at this amazing login that we have. They have done the most to really try to push their users to try their tablet, try their apps, because they're going to launch a service on the backs of that. So they've been developing this anyway, and they're playing that. I think that may be a key reason why they're up as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something inherent about the because satellite by itself is a kind of a strange solution to deliver programming, right? Where it's like, let's send something up into space and you get some equipment that you point, or we pay somebody to point for you to look at it. So I wonder if just inherent into that delivery system is a mindset of, hey, what really matters is they get the programming. How they get it doesn't really matter. We'll do something as nutty as firing, bouncing stuff off, from space satellites or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, satellite TV take advantage of the fact that they didn't have to go fight the cable company monopoly for access to the poles, right?
Right.
And the internet means, hey, guess what? We still don't have to fight them for access to the poles, and we also don't have to put satellite dishes on top of people's houses.
Yeah, no, I wonder if we're seeing the echoes of second place mentality, right? Wait, what?
Oh, I just made a business pun. It was Echo Star.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, Echo Star. And where satellite makes sense is in places where there is no cable and there is no internet.
Right.
Rural areas, mountain areas. I mean, you go up into Vail and you're going to see tons of satellite dishes up on houses and stuff, because that's where they can. That's the only way they can get a signal of any kind to watch TV.
Awesome.
All right, let's gear on up now and talk about the stuff that we use to watch this streaming service that we have now decided whether we're going to subscribe to or not.
Oh, I'm ready for some super positive, exciting release announcements of things going great.
All right. Well, then I'll start with the Apple TV remote app instead of the other story that's in this segment. Because it's a really good app. The Apple TV remote app is out. It is not an update to the old remote app. It's different. This is specifically for the Apple TV. It mimics the physical remote. So if you've used the Apple TV new remote, with the little touch screen, you'll be able to do the same thing on the touch screen of your iOS device. It has the advantage of being able to use the iOS keyboard, though. So when you're adding text or things like that, you can use a full keyboard instead of having to click around on the screen. And it can also work with your password manager. So if you have 1Password or LastPass on your device, you can use that to copy in your password into the Apple TV. A really smart move, granted, only going to be applicable to the slice of people who have a new Apple TV and an iPhone, but if you do, then Apple's making you doubly happy.
I really want. I do not have an Apple TV, and I'm a big Mac guy, and I want to see those, because I go into the Apple store and I check out the Apple TV, and I really want to like it more than I do when I'm in there, because I want to see, because I'm also big into Apple Music. I'm a big Apple Music fan, and I want to be able to use that on my TV. And I go in there and I'm not sold on it yet. Like, because when it first came out, I thought I thought like all of your iPhone games and things are going to be on the Apple TV, and that'll be cool. And I don't know if that's the way it is yet. It doesn't. I mean, do you have an Apple? You guys both have Apple TVs. Like, what are your experiences with them in terms of of the games and things like that?
I don't, but Tom has played around quite a bit with it.
Yeah, the Universal App Store part of it is there. So now they do it where if you have something installed on another iOS device, it'll automatically add it to your Apple TV unless you change the setting to tell it not to. but there isn't a huge overlap. And frankly, to me, that was never the big advantage to me. If I just want to AirPlay something, I can do that, but I could do that with the old Apple TV too. It's all about the interface for me. It is a much more fluid interface, and with the Siri integration, it's easy to do some cool things like skip back 15 seconds or ask what did they say, and definitely search around and find things easier. But overall, I mean, what I use my streaming devices for is to watch Hulu, Sling TV, PlayStation View, and Netflix. And it does 3 of the 4 of those. And the Sling TV app hangs all the time. So really, I rely on it for maybe 2 of the 4 of them. And I find myself using the Roku more often, frankly.
Yeah, that's what I use. So that's I can't justify buying an Apple TV yet. You know, if price comes down, if they gets more features and stuff, then maybe have an additional one. But I like the Roku for now.
And John, doesn't your Roku, your remote, have the headphones jack?
Yeah, it has the earbuds jack, which is essential for me. I watch 95% television with the earbuds in. So the Apple TV does, at least as far as I know, does not have that feature. So I couldn't use it just for that reason, you know.
I was using that yesterday because I wanted to watch something and my wife was playing music and I was like, hey, do you mind if the TV's on while you're listening to music? It's like, no, I don't care. And then everybody's happy.
I wonder if that would solve one of the problems we have in our household is that anything played in the living room can really be heard to some degree throughout the entire house. So, which is problematic when you're watching certain episodes of Game of Thrones and so on and the kids are trying to go to bed. I wonder if, I don't know, that'd be something worth considering to get an increased, higher fidelity experience for us.
Now, as far as the Apple TV's fate goes, Apple still hasn't really made it clear what this device is for. There have been rumors forever that they were going to come up with their own television service. Sometimes people even saying they're going to come up with their own television. Wall Street Journal did an in-depth report where they got sources from various networks and various television studios about what Apple's negotiating tactics were. And if you follow Apple, these are not going to sound very surprising. Apple was very tough. They wanted control over customer information, which they always do. And they wanted a different fee structure. And that killed the streaming agreements that they were pursuing with Comcast and Time Warner Cable, and with the TV programs as well. They didn't want to increase fees over time. They wanted full seasons of all top shows on demand and to allow commercial skipping. All of those, and they wouldn't budge on any of those things. All of those are great for us, the consumer, and anathema, or at least leverage points for the TV folks to say, well, we don't want to really give you that, which is another reason why Sling TV and PlayStation View are not optimal, because some of their channels have allowed you to fast forward and some of them haven't. So that always becomes an issue. But I thought the most interesting part of this story was the fact that Apple said, we are not going to agree to increase the amount we pay you for a channel every year ahead of time. And one of the biggest complaints anyone has ever had over a cable subscription has been the fact that the price keeps going up. And one of the reasons for that is that has become the de facto negotiation, is you will pay the studio an increased amount for its channel, or you will pay the network an increased amount for its channel every year from the get-go. Doesn't matter if it turns out to be a successful channel or not. That's the contract you go into from the beginning.
So what's the solution here then? Because, I mean, of course, Apple has achieved its dominance in the music category specifically because you had this enthusiastic, charismatic, very powerful figure in Steve Jobs, who came in at a time when everybody was afraid about all of music dying, and he was able to pitch, join our cult and everything will be all right. And they're like, we will do that. And it's obvious that television doesn't want to play the same game.
Well, they look at what happened. They're like, music industry had some really bad years after that. We don't want to do that. So I've got my own ideas, but John or Patrick, I'm interested what you guys think.
Well, I just wanted to throw out there real quick. When Apple did that, no one was really streaming music and making it profitable. And so the music industry had nothing to lose. They're like, yeah, fine, whatever. We don't care. Do what you're going to do. No one's going to buy it. And then everybody bought it. And they went, oh, crap. Wait. No, hold on. We need to change our pricing. It's like text messaging. Back when you first had text messaging on phones, people said, you know what? We're going to give this to you for free because no one's ever going to use it. It's kind of a neat feature. Don't worry about it. Now it's extra, right?
Yeah.
Because now suddenly everybody uses it. It's the same thing with the music. So now TV's looking at it. It's just like the same with publishing industry and ebooks, right? Yeah. They're looking at it and they're going, whoa, wait a minute. other stuff like this has worked and made money. We can't just give this away. They're freaking out.
Yeah, was Apple part of the lawsuit with publishing, where they like sort of in cahoots with
Yes.
the price fixing on the books?
Artificially
Yeah,
inflating the cost of new ebooks. Yeah.
Oh, you mean coming to a rational business agreement to allow the publishers to control the price of their own works? Is that what you're trying to say?
And then suddenly ebook sales declined because they went way up.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
So odd.
I think what's going on here is there's a little bit of that fallout from seeing what happened to the music industry, and there is also just a matter of time at issue. And to answer your question, Brian, I think what fixes this is time, and I think Apple knows that. Apple is being patient. They have loads of cash. They have time. They can afford to be patient and say, great, you guys aren't ready to give the consumer what they want yet, then we'll come back to you in a couple of years. So we'll shut down these negotiations for now. And at some point, the market is going to shift enough. They're not going to be able to get those guaranteed price rise deals anymore because bundles are getting skinnier and consumers have way more choice. The key isn't that there is a replacement for cable on television, on the internet. The key is I have more choice. I can decide not to have cable. I can decide to have a skinnier cable. I can decide to go with a PlayStation Vue because now there's more competition in my area because it's available everywhere in the United States, not just in places where they can run cable. And so all of a sudden they're going to need Apple. And when that happens, Apple will have kept their negotiating position.
Yeah, I guess only time will tell, but I do think you're right in that they are very intentionally playing a long game on this. They're waiting for all the dust to settle, and if they refuse to back down from their hardline positions, to be honest, I think that only works well for them because they don't give up any leverage. They're not compromising. They're not. I think they're doing it smart for their interests. Unfortunately, that's not going to be great for the four of us.
Yeah, not yet. Not until they finally get around to putting that all that
right.
I'm taking a hardline position too, Brian.
Yeah. Is it about how hardline your faith is and how awesome Pilot X is?
I'm taking the hardline position that I'm going to write books. I don't care what you think, Brian. I'm going to put them up at TomMerrittBooks.com. I'm going to make them available as ebooks and print on demand, and I'm going to let Inkshares publish my next one, Pilot X, on March 14th, and I'm going to take the hard line that you can pre-order it right now or buy any of my other books right now and read them right away.
Oh, great. That's what the world needs now.
I'm not going to negotiate on that, Brian.
Fat cat author writing awesome science fiction and restrictively constricting our ability to get it. I bet there's no way to get it free.
To take Patrick's point into account here, I'm going to price them at a price that you can afford to pay, rather than just jack up the price.
All right, well, name that price. What is it?
Oh, I don't know. Brief Guide to Cord Cutting. How's 99 cents sound?
It's pretty cheap. Pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is there any kind of free option for any of your books?
You know, for most of them that I am in control of, you can get a free PDF as well at archive.org.
Well, doggone it. You sure have turned me around. I would like to join your cult, sir.
Yes. Welcome. The time has come. All right, let's move on to the front lines.
Frontlines.
HBO head of programming Casey Bloys has now confirmed Game of Thrones to end after 8 seasons. Don't freak out. You didn't miss season 7. That's still coming next summer. Bloys said that HBO had some exploratory talks about a spin-off show, but there were no firm plans yet.
And keep in mind, a spin-off show doesn't mean that they have to follow one of the currently existing characters. You know, George R.R. Martin has released books like The Hedge Knife.
Jamie and Brienne road pick.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I would definitely watch that. I would pay for the pay-per-view special on that. But you know, he wrote The Hedge Knight that takes place like 1,000 years.
It's 100 years.
100 years.
It's 100 years before the Dunk and Egg stories. Those are great. They could totally do a series on those. That I would love to see that. I just read that.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's fleshed out the world enough that I don't think it'd feel cheesy or weird. Separately, though, CBS says it has around 2 million total subscribers for All Access and Showtime, split evenly between the two. CEO Les Moonves says he's well ahead of schedule of where they thought they'd be. I got to admit, this really surprises me.
Well, in what way?
Well, I mean, just to have that much that fast for essentially charging. You know what it is? It's the bottled water phenomenon. If you told me back in the day that people would pay $4 for bottled water, that they would pay, at concerts more for water than gasoline when it rains from the sky for free, that sounds insane. But it turns out there's something we deeply value about having, self-contained water.
But that water that fell from the sky isn't have a picture of a mountain on its bottle, does it?
Yeah, well, you got me again, big water.
I kind of think this is a bigger number than I would have expected too, but I also put it in the perspective of, CBS reaches 80 to 100 million people. So I think it's a better number for Showtime in a way than it is for CBS All Access. And then as soon as I say that out loud, I go, yeah, but you can get CBS over the air for free. So that whole water argument Brian's making is pretty compelling to have 1 million people willing to pay for that.
Yeah. What about you guys? Surprised or not surprised?
Well, do those numbers include the Amazon Prime where you can subscribe to Showtime?
I believe, yes. I believe these are all of the Showtime internet-only subscriptions.
Then that doesn't necessarily surprise me because Showtime has had some high-profile shows recently, like Penny Dreadful, and what's the one with the guy in Hollywood who's
is it
like
Nurse,
the Fixer?
Nurse Jackie and wait, no, is Nurse
Fixer
Jackie a
guy.
Showtime one?
Dexter is on there, yeah.
I think it's
There's
Billions,
Jackie's on
billions.
Ray Donovan, that's the other one I was thinking of. Shameless, stuff like that. So they've had some really good shows. That doesn't necessarily surprise me. And people still like to watch Dexter too. And where else are they going to get Dexter?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the numbers too, just because CBS is sort of on their own island. Most of the other networks are over on Hulu, and so Hulu is I guess CBS is $5 a month as opposed to, what Hulu is, which is twice that or more if you do the commercial free one. Now on CBS All Access, are there commercials on that too, or is it commercial free?
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing. Again,
and there's no way around
bottled water.
Wow.
It's all bottled water, Tom.
Right. And you can also get Showtime on Hulu. So why wouldn't they allow you to add CBS? I don't know. CBS is doing something else that's a little interesting. They're going to make 16 episodes of a spin-off of the Late Late Show host James Corden's segment Carpool Karaoke. It'll be a digital series, maybe not hosted by James Corden. They haven't yet announced a host for it, but it will be hosted on Apple, not on CBS All Access.
Okay, let's play a little game called That Makes Sense Because ... fill in the blank.
Kevin Bacon's going to be the host.
All right, well then that does work actually.
Done.
So it's going to be on Apple Music. So are you going to so when I open Apple Music on my phone, is it going to be like, hey, watch the latest episode of Carpool Karaoke on? I mean, it makes sense in some ways because it is a music show. I get that. But then is it only going to be available on Apple TV to stream? I'm guessing. I don't know.
I would think so. Well, it'd probably be
Okay.
available through the iTunes store, right? And then that means Apple TV, iOS devices, and AirPlay. But that's true of any iTunes TV show or movie that you buy. So, it definitely ties into music. You're right about that. I think Apple must have written him a good enough check that they were like, yeah, sure.
That's what it boils down to.
I think it goes back to what Brian said about the long game. Just like they're starting to build some content, and this will be like one of their things that they're going to have. It doesn't seem like compelling on its own, but when they build up 4, 5, 6, 10 of these, then it's like, oh, that's cool.
And I would guarantee, I would 90% guarantee it's not going to have James Corden, or CBS would want to maintain control of it. I think part of the deal will be you can call it Carpool Karaoke, but you got to come up with a different host.
Yeah, well, and keep in mind the alternative is they're like, hey, we're going to make a digital series about people singing in cars. It can either have the name that everybody knows from your segment and you could get a paycheck, or we could call it something else and do something different. And given that choice, it makes sense that they would do that no matter who owns it or wherever it goes. Stars is developing a U.S. version of British comedy Peep Show. Peep Show's original creators, Sam Bain and Jesse Armstrong, will serve as consulting producers with Elifred's Eli Jome for executive producing. I know literally nothing about this.
But do you need to? It is a British show that is really popular in the UK, and they're going to not bring it over to the US as is, but reboot it with American cast.
Yep.
You've seen it before, folks.
Yeah.
Will it also have American sensibilities?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the idea. That's usually what they do, right?
Right, and so
I
then
don't know
it's
that
gonna
for sure,
tank.
but that'd be my guess.
Right, so it'll tank.
Ha!
Yeah, I mean, The Office is the exception to that rule.
Correct.
Name me another British show that has been rebooted successfully in the with a U.S. version, not just like Doctor Who, where they brought it over and it got success.
I got it. All in the Family.
Wait, All in the Family was a British show?
Yep.
Bah.
And Sanford and Son.
Name me a third.
Sanford and Son.
What about House of Cards?
Name me a one since
Yeah, House of Cards. You ever hear of it?
That's
I think it's interesting that Starz is doing this too, because Starz is also pushing their own unbundled app-only version, and their big hit is Outlander right now. But they're also going to be bringing in another big name. Oh, American Gods is coming to Starz as well.
Didn't they also do Ash?
Ash vs. Evil Dead. Yeah, that one's on there as well.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, not as huge as Outlander yet, and I imagine American Gods is going to be pretty big too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mitch Hurwitz has finished a recut of Arrested Development's Netflix season. He took it from the 15 30-minute episodes on Netflix to 22, that magic syndicated number, 22 20-minute episodes, and even got Ron Howard to record new voiceovers to fit the new pace. He has not said what he's going to do with those. It does make them available for syndication. My guess is Netflix has said in that Ted Sarandos talk that they're going to bring another series of Arrested Development to Netflix. I would think maybe they're going to try to syndicate that Netflix season to people who don't have Netflix.
Man, how would you like to be the person who has to call Ron Howard's office and tell him he has to go redo a bunch of voiceovers? Like, somebody as talented as he is and as important as he is, he's working well below his pay grade every time he steps into that booth and starts talking into the mic. But and to confess, yeah, we kind of wasted your time with that other season. We're going to need you to record
didn't
this
Ron
again.
and Mitch develop the show together? So I imagine he gets a little bit of
I'm sure. Look, I'm sure he gets value out of it. I'm sure he enjoys doing it. But when you're calling up that guy, I'm just glad I'm not an intern working for Mitch Hurwitz.
I'm glad I'm not Michael Cera, because I'm pretty sure they made him make those calls.
Hey man, starting September 1st, you'll need to pay the UK license fee if you want to access the BBC iPlayer programming. Previously, a license was only required to access live streaming programming on iPlayer. Do you think this is a case where finally they woke up and admitted, oh wait, we live in a world where VPNs exist and we can either take the money or we can shake our fist at it?
No, this is a long fought battle in the British public about whether the license fee should even be collected at all.
Yeah.
And so they were very careful to say, okay, we're going to say you need the license fee to watch live programming because that's exactly the same as what you get on television. But people were saying, well, you shouldn't make us pay the license fee to watch on demand. That's not fair. That's stuff you've already paid for with the license fee for the people who watch live. And they had a long look at all of this and got people on board. It was a political problem. The question will be, in the past, if you watched live programming on iPlayer, it just said, don't forget to pay your license fee. It's against the law. And if you get caught, you'll get fined. Will they now say, we're also going to create a system that will verify that you paid that fee to access iPlayer at all, which would also inflame the British public opinion?
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting. I have no idea or opinion on this.
All right. Let's
that whole
see
system is crazy, though.
What's that? What, Patrick?
Well, and that whole system, I've never understood it, to be honest with you. It's essentially a tax on TV.
Yeah, well, the idea is that television is provided as a municipal service, the same way with water. It's government owned, where it's like, hey man, the government makes your TV and delivers your TV. Pay us, the government who owns everything, the rights to have to watch our awesome content.
And
it's a voluntary tax. They basically say, look, you will fund this programming, which will be in the public interest, by paying a tax on your television.
Wow.
Yeah, same thing with NHK in Japan, and yeah. I mean, look, it's a strange world out there, man. Turns out not everyone does it the way we do with our awesome, sensible, crony
Comcast
capitalist fusion.
Yeah, and don't forget, in the UK, they also have private networks that don't get funded by the tax, and you can watch without paying the TV tax if you can figure out how to get them without a television.
Yeah,
Would
like
that
Channel
be
4.
Sky?
Yeah, Channel 4, Sky, some of the Sky channels. But with Sky channels, you got to buy a television, which subjects you to the TV tax. So you'd have to buy the Sky streaming only package and then watch it on a computer monitor and then claim that you don't have a TV. Now I'm getting out of my depth.
Makes perfect sense, man.
Yeah. Let's move on to see what's under surveillance. All right, so coming up in the next couple of months, HBO's Westworld will premiere on Sunday, October 2nd. Mark your calendars. Netflix will be releasing new episodes of Black Mirror on October 21st. The new Gilmore Girls series coming to Netflix on November 25th. And Hulu has become the only place outside of Showtime's actual paid-for service where you can stream the first 4 seasons of Homeland without a Showtime subscription. So yes, you can get a Showtime subscription as a Hulu member, but you don't have to get the Showtime subscription now to watch one of their most popular shows.
Right on. Yay!
All right, let's talk about what we've been watching, and we'll start with you, Patrick Hester. What have you been watching?
Recently, oh my gosh, I just started Stranger Things on Netflix.
How far into it are you?
I am on, what is it, chapter 7?
Oh wow, yeah, no,
believe.
you're ahead of me all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving it. It's a great show. It's very creepy, very intense. The mystery is really good. It's great to see Winona Ryder, working again. Come on,
that sheriff,
Yes.
He grows on you.
He does.
Started off, I thought he was the weakest part of the show, but halfway through, I'm just like he's clearly the hero as far as I'm concerned.
And Matthew Modine is creepy. I mean, ridiculously creepy in this show. I remember him being like the likable guy in the 80s movies, and now he is the creepy doctor weirdo guy who's doing all this stuff.
Wait, he's the dad figure in the...
Yeah.
How did I not even recognize him? Wow.
Because of his hair.
Wow,
hair
yeah, he's got that.
weird.
He's got that white thinning
Yes.
hair. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a trip, but it's a great show. I highly recommend it. People should go binge it.
John, what have you been watching?
I just finished Stranger Things a couple nights ago, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I actually did watch The Ranch and enjoyed that too. I was going to pick that. I just finished Rick and Morty season 2 on Hulu, which is amazing. Which you guys turned me on to them about a year ago when they first came on Hulu with season 1. That was great. I watched Voltron, which I enjoyed. I wanted it to be a little better, but it was good.
That's where I ended up as well. Like, and we even spread it out because Bonnie or Penny and I really enjoyed watching them together. So we would, sort of like, parse them out a little bit at a time. But I mean, maybe in the second season, once they smell franchise, they'll be really able to dive in and give us more depth.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too. I thought the voice acting was great in it, and I love the tone is similar to the Last Airbender and Korra because it is the same people. I'm hoping for an even better
little bit
season
sillier. 2. They leaned more heavily on kind of the wink and a nod moments than I'd expected them to, but I think that was the right decision for Voltron.
Yes, and Rhys Darby is awesome in that.
Oh he's great. He's amazing.
Famous.
Can I interject one more thing?
Sure.
To answer Tom's question about a third British show that was successfully Shameless on Showtime. That's another one I've watched recently, and I really got into that because I am from Chicago. I was raised Catholic, and they're like an Irish Catholic family living in Chicago, and just it's like a train wreck you can't look away from. And it's got William H. Macy in it.
Oh wow! Everything he does
he's
is
the
great.
Dad, and it's just an awesome show.
That's on Netflix now too. I think the first couple of seasons of that's
Yep.
on Netflix now too.
Now, Brian, I know we both had busy weeks. You and I both have watched Justified and Mr. Robot. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, I take that back. Like, I got selfish. I'm sorry, guys. Like, sometimes you just want to lose yourself in something that is going to be good no matter what. So I maybe have wasted a bunch of time rewatching Rick and Morty season 2. It may be pretty freaking great.
I don't know that anyone in our audience could bring themselves to call watching Rick and Morty season 2 a waste of time.
No. Well,
even if you're watching it for the second time.
I have 1,800 plus bosses who think that my job is to be watching new content, not rewatching old content. So I apologize.
What do they know? What do they know?
I'll be better.
I had a longer flight back from Orlando than Brian did, so I ended up instead of working on the Cordkillers lineup, watching Angie Tribeca, the Rashida Jones series that's on TBS. I had heard nothing about it, although I had a vague recollection that someone had mentioned it to me, and someone on Twitter said they thought they remembered mentioning it to us on Cordkillers. It is airplane police squad level humor in a 20-minute comedy about police detectives. And the first couple episodes, I'm like, this is really dumb, but I like these actors and there's some funny jokes. And then I just couldn't stop. It was like eating candy. I got 8 episodes in and I was laughing the longer I watched. I don't know if they just got better or I just got more used to it, but I found it hilarious.
That's awesome.
All right. Bryce, our producer, is always on the lookout for new things. What do you got for us this week, Bryce?
Hey, we got a letter from Noel, who wrote in about the new HBO miniseries, The Night Of. He writes, The Night Of is a British-American 8-part HBO BBC worldwide television miniseries based on the original show Criminal Justice, which aired in Britain. I entered the show totally blind, which I highly recommend, especially if you want to feel the same level of emotion and anxiety as the main character. The first episode was one of the biggest punches to the gut that I've experienced in a long time. Simply the story and the way they... it's simply the story and the way that they present it. With that said, it has little to no profanity, violence, or nudity. This could have easily been a show that aired on basic cable or network television, except for the fact that it is of superior quality. Similar to Mr. Robot, The Night Of captures the at times bleak, stark, and mundane nature of life in New York City. Lastly, John Turturro is a much welcome presence as he adds a bit of light to a very dark series premiere.
John Turturro, right?
Yes. Oh, what did I say?
Yeah, I think you said Totino, the pizza thing. It's fine.
You're right, John Turturro. And I've been trying to keep up with this. I've been bad. This is on the bottom of my list of things to watch, but it's very the long and short of it is a kid goes out, steals his dad's taxi cab, and then wakes up the next day framed for murder. So you get to, it's kind of a real crime, true crime sort of serial-esque sort of story. But that is The Night Of. That's on HBO and it is streaming on HBO Now and HBO Go now.
All right. Get something to us. If you've been on the lookout and you want to mention it to us, you can email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Let's see some dispatches from the front.
Yeah. I kind of regret how long this intro is, given the fact that we really only have one email left.
Well, we read a bunch of our Netflix emails in the Netflix series. So, yeah, we've got one, but this email has 2 tips in it, Brian.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Greg wrote in and said, if you're looking for a replacement for TiVo Desktop Plus, PyTivo, spelled Pytivo, may be a great option at pytivo.sourceforge.net. He says it looks a bit complicated to set up, but it may do what the writer from last week was looking to do. Another writer asked about Hallmark Channel for Sling TV or PS View, and you can't get it on Sling TV or PS View, but he does point out that there is a kind of a weird Hallmark-operated app called Feeln, Feeln, which lets you watch, he says most, I've heard other people say some, Hallmark movies and TV shows. It will not let you live stream. And anyway, Greg says it's a small panacea, not a perfect replacement, but you can get it right now for $70 for 2 years, which comes out to $2.92 a month. Monthly alone is $5.99, or yearly is $36. But he says it's all pretty good if you're a fan of the channel.
Right on. By the way, please send us those emails. We were a little bit lighter this week than I normally like, because one of my favorite parts in the pre-show prep is to go through and read all of your awesome ideas. So make sure to hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com if you have any comments, any stories, or more importantly, questions that you have for us.
Let's thank our guest, John Anealio. Thank you for being with us today, and let folks know where they can find more of what you're doing online.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at John Anealio, and you can find Patrick and I together. We host a weekly podcast called The Functional Nerds. We've been doing it for a very long time. We're well into the 200s. We've been doing it about 7 years.
Holy cow.
We usually have science fiction and fantasy authors, some like Tom. We also had Timothy Zahn and Kevin J. Anderson and all sorts of awesome people. And like, most of the big names in science fiction and fantasy literature, we have them on the show. So if that sounds good to you, go and check us out at functionalnerds.com and search for Functional Nerds on iTunes, and you'll find us.
Of course, that applies to Patrick Hester. Well, anything to add to that?
If you want to find me on Twitter, I am ATFMB, all things from my brain.
I love it. Thank you both for being with us. Of course, we are at cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And we will kill more cords for you next week. Brian?
Yeah. That's a fact.
Solve those ligatures.
It's happening. Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cord Killers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.